We're back with Alden Chodash of AldenBoxing.com. This past Saturday, Alden, in England, it was Ricky Hatton with a unanimous decision over Juan Lezcano. First of all, do you think Ricky looked good, bouncing back off the Floyd Mayweather knockout?
I think Ricky Hatton, to tell you the truth, I think he fought his fight. I think he did the best that he could have at any stage of his career. I don't think the Floyd Mayweather knockout loss in his previous fight had anything to do with the performance that he gave us last Saturday. I think Juan Lezcano came in game and definitely looking to upset Hatton in front of an adoring crowd of British fans. And I think he would have had a better shot if he was in better condition to sustain the kind of attack that Hatton pressed forward. But once again, Hatton was clipped by a number of check left hooks, one in the 10th round, I believe, that almost had him in a position to actually go down against Juan Lezcano, who's never been regarded as a huge puncher, especially at this stage of his career.
Why is he vulnerable to that punch? He just jumps in.
Yeah, he comes in without defense, definitely. And Mayweather exposed it because of his great skill. Lezcano almost exposed the same thing that Mayweather did, but he didn't have the craft that Mayweather had to capitalize and make an imprint.
All right. We hear rumblings that there is going to be a Floyd Mayweather-Ricky Hatton rematch. I mean, first of all, do you want to see it? And secondly, does Ricky have any chance of changing the outcome?
No, I don't want to see it. Definitely not. I think Floyd made his case the first time, and if Floyd's going to continue fighting, there's better opposition to fight in the future. Oscar De La Hoya is a good matchup, better than a Hatton rematch, and Miguel Cotto is the match everybody wants to see. Those two definitely trump the Hatton rematch, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, on the undercard it was Paulie Malignaggi. With his big hair and all, he beats Ndu once again. And now it seems like it could be Paulie versus Ricky. At first blush, who do you like winning that fight?
Definitely Hatton after what I saw by Malignaggi, but there is some legitimate excuses. One, which definitely can be ignored, is probably Paulie's bad hairdo, which was eliminated in the 10th round after a haircut by his trainer, Buddy McCurt. Another, his hand injury. And a third, you got to consider the difference in the magnitude of the bout compared to the first bout where Paulie beat up Ndu, looked great in his career-defining performance in his hometown, or close to his hometown, with adoring fans coming to watch, compared to him going to England to fight Ndu. Neither were fighting in their hometown. Paulie Malignaggi didn't look inspired, probably because he didn't have the fan base that he had in the first performance with Ndu. That is another reason that probably caused him to look more lethargic and more mediocre than he did in many previous performances, especially the first bout with Ndu. I think he just wasn't inspired to go in there and look great as he did in the first fight.
And he has a shot against Hatton, you're saying, or no?
Yeah, he has a better shot than that performance would suggest last week.
How's he going to hurt Hatton, though?
He doesn't hurt. I can't recall any of his opposition that he's able to hurt, especially top-notch opposition. But his chance would be to outbox Hatton, which is extremely difficult given Hatton's speed and the intensity in which he attacks. But Hatton is vulnerable on the way in. But Paulie Malignaggi could be able to catch him with a check hook or a combination on the way in. I just don't think he has the punching power to keep him off.
Do you blame hand injuries, or is just that's his style?
He doesn't really. I don't think he even clenches his fist really. That's his approach. He doesn't punch with power. His style is to hit and run, stick and move. He's just not a puncher.
Would you rather see Ricky Hatton face Timothy Bradley?
Yeah, that'd be a very good matchup. I don't think Bradley's the name to really push the fight into happening. I think Junior would have been a perfect match if he would have beaten Bradley. So I think probably the most logical step is to see a rematch between Witter and Bradley, and the winner would face Ricky Hatton.
Okay. Upcoming fights this week. On Wednesday, super middleweight battle between Anthony Mundine and Sam Solomon. Who do you think is going to win? I know Sam's been beaten by this guy a couple of times in his career, hasn't he?
Yeah, especially the last bout against Mundine ended in a stoppage loss. And Sam Solomon hasn't done anything after that performance to really prove that he belongs in there, losing on the contender to Sakio Bika. Sakio Bika beat him decisively. That doesn't really make a case for him to beat Mundine after 2 previous defeats, especially a stoppage loss in his most recent battle with Mundine.
Okay, kind of a light schedule this week, but in Germany on Saturday, bantamweight matchup, Vladimir Sidorenko, 21-0, just 7 by KO. He faces Anselmo Marino, who's 21-1, and his biggest names on his resume are Tomas Rojas and a past his prime Ricardo Vargas. Marino versus Vladimir Sidorenko. You think Sidorenko is going to stay unbeaten?
Yeah, Sidorenko's a good all-around fighter. He presses the majority of his opposition unless someone could force him off. Despite having so few knockouts, his approach is kind of questionable, but he's undefeated up to this point, although he has won a couple of decisions controversially and has 2 draws with Ricardo Cordova. He should win this fight and move on to better opposition.
In Mexico on Saturday, Fernando Montiel is facing Luis Maldonado, whose only 2 losses have come to Victor Chinian and Nonito Donaire. Maldonado should be a good fight?
Yeah, it should be a good fight. Montiel should win because of his advantage in class and hand speed. Maldonado proved to be somewhat of a punching bag for the 2 best fighters he faced, Darchinyan and Nonito Donaire. Donaire beat him up because of his hand speed. I think Fernando Montiel will do the same thing. Montiel's really special. He's definitely one of the best in the super flyweight division. And Maldonado, although he's tough, he's really more of an opponent for guys on that level.
Okay, some fights that have been announced or are scheduled to be announced as official, and I want to hear your take on them. Joshua Clottey versus Zab Judah. Clottey wins?
Yeah, he's the more complete fighter. He should beat Judah the same way that Floyd Mayweather, Miguel Cotto, and a couple other fighters are probably just the most distinctive fighters on his record. Were Kosciuszko, Mayweather, and Cotto. Cotto and Mayweather beat him because of their advantage in class. Clottey should do the same thing. He's stronger, he should back him up, and he's the more complete fighter.
Do you see Joshua Clottey as this generation's or this time's, what's the name of the fella that fought De La Hoya, the African fella?
Ike Cortez.
Ike Cortez. Is he similar in style?
Yeah, there is a lot of resemblance between the 2. He's a tough guy, walks fighters down. No one's really going to make him back up, despite his hand injury to Margarito, which forced him against the ropes. Against an all-pressure fighter like Margarito, that handicap forced him against the ropes. That's probably the only guy that I could recall that ever backed him up. Yeah, he's just a welterweight wall. He backs people up. He's a relatively good puncher, and he's a good, complete fighter.
And he's as good as Ike Cortez?
That's yet to be seen, whether he could hold his own as he's doing against lesser class opposition to the top-notch opposition, which he's destined to be facing with the kind of record he's stored up within the earlier part of his career.
Okay, there may be a Nate Campbell, Joel Casamayor matchup later this year. If that takes place, who do you think's going to win?
I think definitely Campbell should prevail in that fight. He's dropped a decision to Joel Casamayor earlier in his career, but as was discussed, that was a controversial decision. I think Campbell is at his peak right now in confidence, definitely, because he's just beaten the baby bull Juan Diaz, which should boost your confidence if anything else does, especially in Juan's native country of Mexico. He's at his best, skillfully, mentally, and it's quite the opposite for Joel Casamayor. He's really drooping down. Although his confidence may have been restored by a knockout victory over Catsidas, he has shown that he is showing signs of age in his last performance or his previous performance at Catsidas against Santa Cruz, and he also showed age against Catsidas.
But do you think that Campbell can come back with another inspired performance like he did against Juan Diaz?
Yeah, he's the lightweight champion. He definitely has a lot of inspiration in defending the lightweight championship. A lot of people think he is the undisputed lightweight champion, despite Joel Casamayor currently being the Ring Magazine lightweight champion. That was just a linear situation. I think Campbell's ready to take that right away from him.
We're going to be discussing this in a week or so, but you think that Tony Thompson can pull off a Corey Sanders type upset of Vladimir Klitschko?
Let me rephrase. Nowhere near a Corey Sanders type upset. He's not a puncher to begin with. Corey Sanders beat him because of his punching power and his speed. I think Tony Thompson has a better chance of beating Vladimir Klitschko than many other heavyweights because he's a complete fighter. He's big enough to handle Klitschko and not be bullied around. And he has a game plan in there. He has good boxing skills. He won't let Klitschko waste rounds by using the jab. Klitschko, if he's going to win, he will have to throw his right hand as early as the first round and open up with combinations. Klitschko's capable. I think Thompson is also capable of winning based off Klitschko's previous performances.
And a 36-year-old Thompson, do you think he's going to have enough stamina and drive to pull off a shocker, which would be maybe an understatement?
Yeah, well, he's on his way up. Klitschko is a long-time heavyweight champion. Not long time, but he's been accustomed to that WBO or IBF heavyweight title. I think he's kind of slacking off in recent performances, and I don't think he will be inspired for an opportunity like this in which Thompson will jump on.
Okay, thanks for talking to us, Alden. Remember to check out aldenboxing.com for more information. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.